we got to talk about the Land Dweller, right?
Yeah.
It's funny because I've always been an oyster quartz guy, right? Like I've always just loved that case, and I've always said like this is like by far the most Genta-esque case that Rolex has ever created. I know there's the Texano as well that was actually designed by Genta, but I find the actual oyster quartz case that was launched in 1977 to be slightly more appealing because it's a little bit more streamlined. It's a little bit more elegant to me. So I used to wear that watch all the time. People would laugh at me because they would think it's just like a quirky watch to wear. And it was really unsuccessful when Rolex launched it because they spent so much time developing their own quartz movement, right? Like 7 years basically. And it was so overbuilt with its own thermocompensator, and it was like beautifully finished with Cote de Genève and had jewels in it for a quartz movement.
It's not your average quartz movement, right?
Exactly. By the time they finally launched it, like the quartz phase was kind of like dying out a little bit, you know? But I love the fact that those design codes are now being used to create an all new category for Rolex, and that is the incredible Land Dweller, first 5 hertz watch that they're doing, all new escapement. I mean, what do you think of that one?
Personally, I like it a lot. And I think to your point, like I being a vintage guy, you know, I think like the oyster quartz watches as a whole were such a deviation away from what we expected and were commonly seeing from Rolex in that time. Right. The Jubilee bracelet is awesome in my opinion.
Absolutely.
You know, I think there's like a lot of different things that you could say, you know, about the aesthetic of the watch, but I think the watch itself is really awesome, really beautiful, and I think it's also a watch that I think we'll see kind of remain in the catalog for a while, you know, and there, you know, maybe we'll see gem set options, maybe we'll see different metals, you know, different dials.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. I think that one of the things we've seen about Rolex in the last couple of years, so if you look over the last 4 years, right, they've increased their average price from 11,500 Swiss francs to 13,300 Swiss francs. A lot of that is moving a little bit more into precious metal and certainly into very beautiful dials.
Yep.
And they have in-house now the capacity to make extraordinary dials, mother of pearl. They even have like enamel, you know?
Yeah.
And they have all these different stone dials that we love as well, including the one that's on that new rose gold GMT, which is fantastic, right? But that, if you look at that watch would be so amazing with all the variety of dial expression that they're doing as well. There's even the speculation that that could potentially be, because it's a very slim movement, the base for future complications for Rolex. And it's funny because like the Rolex that we know, we always think of it as a sports watch brand. They have the Saros annual calendar. And maybe there's been kind of a gentlemanly agreement with the other brands that like, no, we won't go into complications. But apparently everything's possible now based on the Land Dweller. And could you imagine them doing like a crown operated perpetual calendar, for example? It'd be just nuts, and on that base, it would be crazy. The other thing to bear in mind too is that 15,000 Swiss francs for that watch, it's not insubstantial in terms of price, but if you compare it to the other integrated bracelet watches, it's kind of half the price of the watches from the competing brands, right?
Yeah, for sure. And I also think to your point, it's a good platform for creativity, right? I think like creativity in a watch can be a bracelet, it can be a case, it can be a complication, but it also can be something as simple as like a dial, right? And you need a platform in order to do things like that. And I think like that's the thing that I find most interesting about the Land Dweller is it's kind of presenting itself as a quiet platform for the brand to do other things. So I think, you know, maybe people miss that a little bit. But personally, I love the watch. And the other thing that I think is quite interesting is, you know, we consume content today, you know, digitally, and it's very flat. When I put that watch on my wrist, I was like, you know what? I get this. Right. You know, and so I think like on the wrist, the watch wears beautifully, even in a larger size, 40, which would be large for me.
The other brand that I wanted to talk about, so it's funny because there is a prevailing feeling that everything's about smaller sizes, everything's about craft, everything's about traditionalism, and we certainly see that with Patek. But on the other side, it's really cool to see that there are brands that are like, you know what, we're about modernism, we're about alternative materials, and we're about just like pushing technology forward. And I have to say, hats off to IWC for the black ceramic engineer.
Crazy.
Which has already appeared on Ed Sheeran's wrist, apparently, right?
Wow.
So now it's called the Ed Sheeran, apparently. And that's a really cool watch also because, again, if I just gave you the details, 42 mm, you'd go, oh, too big. Black ceramic, who wants black ceramic? But it's freaking dope.
Yep. It's also Genta design, and I think kind of like the Genta sleeper.
Yes,
totally. He referred to it as his ultimate failure. And it's a watch that I think if we look at, you know, like some of the other Genta designs, probably hasn't received any of the limelight, and for me is one of the most interesting because I think it was kind of at, you know, the tail end of designing icons. And it's almost like, you look at like a Nautilus, you look at a Royal Oak, and you can kind of see that design language, but they're independently different while being the same. And this is kind of like a great like homologation of those two watches, and something that I think hasn't received a lot of attention. I also love that it was created with the engineer in mind.
Yes.
A gentle watch that was designed more technical than being something that was elegant.
I've always loved that, and I love the fact that he designed this watch, an integrated bracelet watch, but it's not a sports chic watch, because that's like the watch for the guy that's vacationing in the south of France or the Amalfi Coast.
Yep.
And this is created for like the engineer, like the guy that is, he needs an amagnetic watch, or he needs a Faraday cage.
Yeah.
And so because it was so over-engineered to some degree, it was a little bit like thicker on the wrist, it didn't resonate in the same way that the sexy watches did. But it's really having its moment, and I have to say IWC has really made that watch like cool. So the ceramic watch that I like a lot is interesting because it doesn't use a container. It's the first IWC ceramic watch that it's actually ceramic. So ceramic is porous. So in the past, people have always bonded like a container in the center. So whatever they've done to here in terms of material like upgrade or whatever is very interesting. The other thing that's cool about that watch also is that IWC is very famous for the Peloton winding system.
Yep.
Right? Otherwise known as the magic lever system, because once the patent expired, Seiko started using it and actually improved it, right? So what's cool about that is actually the wheel that's winding the barrel and is being like pulled in both directions by the levers is made of ceramic too. So that's
really
made of ceramic, and the
that.
levers are made of ceramic as well. And so you have like a little, like just a cool nerdy thing on the back that connects it like all together, which is really cool. Are you a Reverso fan?
I am a Reverso fan.
I have to say, this was a phenomenal showing for Jaeger for the Reversos. So we've spoken, of course, of the Reverso or Deco or Gold Deco with its stunning Milanese bracelet. Like for like guys like us, who love style. You successfully because you're really elegant, me unsuccessfully because I look like a Hawaiian pimp. They stop me all the time at security here. It's so funny, like I showed up on the first day like in a three-piece Tom Ford.
They're like, you're for sure getting the wand swiped out.
Yeah, exactly. Like I showed up for the first day with like a suit and like and a tie, and then they were like, oh, please come in, sir. Yep. And then the last 2 days I've been in a Hawaiian shirt where I guess you can see that I have a few tattoos, so does Cam.
Yep.
And they're like, please say straight to secondary questioning. But okay, nonetheless, the Milanese Reverso is just crazy.
It's cool.
Good. It's crazily good. But there's also some other kind of like slightly sleeper ones in there that are phenomenal. And one of them is the Reverso Geographic.
That is wild.
Dude, I love that watch. Right? It's
Talk about an ultimate flex, because like you can't really tell that it's a world time, and then you flip it over.
Yes.
And you're like, oh, that's a serious watch.
Exactly, right? Or could you imagine just wearing it with the world time out and people are like, I have no idea what the hell that is, but it's so cool looking. So the idea that they've integrated a world time to the back case, absolutely phenomenal. They also have some extraordinary métier d'art watches there as well, which you guys should check out. I'm trying to think about what else I really dug.
I really like the Tag Heuer release of the F1.
Nice.
I think also pretty big deal.
Yes.
Right, because Heuer started as really the first kind of like official timekeeper. Joe Siffer kind of being like the first brand ambassador, and them having such a deep, long history and heritage with racing. And I think what's cool about the F1 watches is that they're like fun, they're accessible. I also like that they incorporated a solar charging system into the quartz.
Yes.
I think also, when we get into watches, we look at things from such a serious perspective. And watches sometimes just need to be fun and accessible. Yeah. And so I like that they've created a line of watches that kind of like coincides with the race. F1 is obviously a big deal. And for Tag Heuer becoming the official sponsor of F1, I think that's kind of like a coming home ceremony for them. So I was actually really stoked on a lot of the Tag Heuer releases, especially with the F1, because one of my first watches was a Tag Heuer F1.
Dude, me too. Right, absolutely. I think that you put it like perfectly. I think every brand needs to have, I guess, what they call a singularity. Yeah. And it's kind of like, what am I about that no one else is about, right? And to be connected again as the official timekeeper of F1, which is its home, right? As you said, is phenomenal. And I know that we were talking to Antoine Pin, and he's like, that's going to inform every decision that we take moving forward in terms of what we create. It's all going to be about precision timekeeping. There is a great moment last year. Everyone's been watching Drive to Survive, I would imagine. Great moment in the most recent series that dropped where it's Sao Paulo, it's raining, right? Now, this is the first time that Verstappen looks like under threat from Lando Norris because he's got a faster car, right? And everyone starts freaking out because of the rain. Lando Norris actually says, I think I'm going to die, and then boxes, right? And everyone takes their foot off the gas except for Verstappen. He puts his foot down, he wins, and he gets the championship as a result. And when we were trying to do an analysis of the thought process behind that, it was just like his desire for victory was greater than his fear of death.
Right.
And that's what Tag Heuer is about. It's about victory at all costs, no matter what. And I love that they've connected with that again. Any last reflections on the fair?
How many espressos have you had today?
Oh my God, dude, it's crazy. Like this is, you enter an alternate reality where like espresso has no effect on you. Like
For real?
dude, I think I drank like 10, 12 espressos a day, and I'm still able to go to sleep because I'm so exhausted by the end of the day. Would you agree?
Totally. It's wild.
Okay. Cam, thank you so much for your time.
Always
You're
a pleasure, man.
a great guy, and we really appreciate it. And I'm going to come
Let's
visit
get
you
together in LA.
Absolutely.
Let's go for a drive.
See you in LA.
All right, man.
Thanks, guys. Thank you.